holidays. And I think it's an amazing thing to see how many trustees show up to do and learn a little bit more about what it means to be a trustee. And we're always fond of saying the same thing. We literally, and I mean literally, cannot do public library without you. We're excited to be able to bring you this program tonight. We're excited that Trustees Group has been able to put this together and make this opportunity. And with that, I'm going to turn over for some words of welcome with our current Buckles president, Adele Puccio. Adele.
Hi, thanks, Dave. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to this. I know that it's like Dave said, you're giving up some time right before the holiday weekend, but this is going to be a wonderful program tonight. Everybody will get something out of it. I want to thank the trustees and the directors who have signed up for this. It is going to be very, very informative, and we really owe the Trustee Development Committee a great deal of thanks, as well as our guests from the State Library. So I'm going to hand this over to Tom Madrut. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Adele. I'm Tom Madrut. I am the co-chair of the Trustee Development Committee, along with Caitlin Hull, the director in Maywood. And we think we've put a very exciting program for you tonight, and we're very happy that you're here. Just for the few folks who joined us recently, a reminder, please, that we would like your questions to be posted in the Q&A. We will monitor those, and we will be happy to answer them at the end of the program. So that's as much as we want to talk about now, and it's my pleasure to introduce our guest presenters from the New Jersey State Library. We have Michele Stricker, who is the Deputy State Librarian in Library Development at the New Jersey State Library. She is responsible for library trustee and director education and training, strategic planning, and preservation, best practices for special collections, disaster preparedness, and community resiliency. I don't know what she does after lunch, but that's a... And also with her is Bob Keith, the Director of Library Law, State Aid and Statistics at the New Jersey State Library. He administers the annual survey and state aid program, which provides libraries with much needed support. He also consults with libraries on matters of library law and is responsible for the statewide databases provided to New Jersey libraries. So without further ado, they are going to be a tag team tonight, so I will turn it over to both of them, and everybody enjoy this wonderful program. Thank you.
All right. Hello, good evening, everyone. Michele, let me get this shared up here. All right, can you guys see that?
Understanding library law, I can see it.
All right.
Great. So I'll start off here and tell you that Mimi Hoy gave us quite a list to cover tonight. And so we are going to do this in zippity-doo fashion to get it to get it all in 1 hour. But you know, just so you know, we usually would do this over an hour and a half with an extra half hour for questions. So please pardon us if we do actually Zoom in Zoom. So tonight we are going to cover library funding and budgets, state aid, the importance of having a strategic plan, the excess fund, the taxpayer excess funding law, working with your local government, your municipality, trustee education requirements, and again, we're going to have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. Next
okay,
slide.
so before we get into the meat of the presentation, we have a disclaimer. Michele and I are not lawyers. We don't even play them on TV. The information that you're about to be presented does not constitute legal advice or opinion. And before you take action on this information, please consult with an attorney. If you don't have your own attorney, hire your own attorney. We'll be talking about that later on, but definitely consult with an attorney before acting on this information. So first of all, there are 4 main types of libraries in New Jersey. There are municipal and joint municipal libraries. That's 2 main types. As from what I know about Buckles, most of you fall into that category. There are county libraries, which we won't really be touching on at all tonight because there is no county library in Bergen County. So we don't have to worry about that. And then there are association libraries, which I think there might be a few in Buckles. Mimi or somebody else can correct me about the numbers about that. But they basically are nonprofit entities that act and function as a public library. And they are governed by the statute that's there, Title 15A of the statutes, New Jersey statutes. So municipal and joint municipal library board membership, you're mostly all members of boards. The mayor or other chief executive officer of the municipality is on each municipal library and joint municipal library board. And the superintendent of schools is also on each board. They are what's called ex officio members. They're members of the board by dint of their office. There are from 5 to 7 additional citizens appointed by the mayor in a municipal library or joint municipal library, 4 of which must live in the town that the library resides in. So if you have 5 additional members, you can have 1 person that lives in another town be on your board. Usually, though, they're all from the same town. 3 of the citizens appointed by the mayor of each member municipality in joint libraries, and appointed trustees, this is very important. Appointed trustees cannot be employees of the municipality, nor can they be members of council. That's very important. Attorney General's opinion that laid that out now, what is that, 17 years ago, that there is a separation between a municipal library and the municipal government. They are not the same. We'll be going into that more later on. Association libraries, as I said before, are formed by Title 15A of the New Jersey statutes. They can accept municipal funds, but the municipality does not have to give them funding. If they do accept municipal funds, they have to keep the library open at reasonable hours and function as a library. They are still subject to the Confidentiality of Library Records Act, which is a statute that means that all library records are confidential with some very few exceptions, such as looking for a hold or something like that. And state laws such as the Open Public Meetings Act may apply, kind of a legal gray area. If you're an association library, consult with your attorney. Municipal board organization is governed by Title 40:54-9 and 10. Basically, board members are appointed for 5-year terms. Their terms must be staggered. That means the end date must be staggered so that no more than 2 board members in a total 9-member board will have their terms come up for expiration on any one year. It's not so that in 1 year all your board members leave the board all of a sudden. If there is a vacancy for some reason, those vacancies are filled for the remainder of the term, not a new term. So if someone left 2 years into their 5-year term, the person filling in for that person would be appointed by the mayor for a 3-year term to fill out that total 5-year term. Let's see. Okay, I'm still on this one. Officers of the municipal library. There are certain board members that at your January meeting, you will have an election to fill certain officer positions in your board. Those are the president, treasurer, and secretary. I know some of you may have a vice president. Technically, there is no vice president officer title mentioned in the statutes, but if you amend your bylaws to mention a vice president and you really want a vice president, it's not going to be the end of the world or anything like that. Each officer serves in that position for 1 year and until a successor is elected. So basically they would still be there for that January meeting. The statute doesn't really spell out the exact duties of each office, but your bylaws can. So your bylaws kind of fill in the gaps between state law, federal law, local ordinance, and things like that, and allow you to spell out what you want something to be in your library. They're kind of more powerful than policies and procedures, but less powerful than statutes and regulations. Your treasurer must also be bonded. And it has been recommended to us, Michelle and I, that you set your check signing procedure with your bank to require 2 signatures. So that would mean that any trustee beyond the treasurer that has signing authority must also be bonded and insured as well. So that everybody knows that the money is safe and things like that. And next, Michelle is going to take it for a little while.
So we want to tell you a little bit about the powers of the board, because you really do have a lot of power, whether you know it or not. And there's the statute that's going to lay it out for you. So the board may purchase books, papers, reading matter. It may hire librarians and hire other necessary personnel. It fixes the compensation for employees. It rents rooms or constructs buildings. And I want to just stop here for a second and say, when we say rent rooms, we don't mean that you can rent out, say, an extra room in your library to a group. And we know that a lot of libraries have done this. This just means that you could rent a room if you need to run the library, okay? And not some other organization that wants to just give you some money to rent the room. I think Michael Cerrone said the way around this is they can give you a donation if they would like to use your room for the evening.
Yeah, you can suggest a donation. Sorry, Michelle, I just want to jump in. Yeah, he said you might be able to, again, with the okay of your attorney, have a suggested donation for a group to use the meeting room. And you would still have to let that group use the meeting room if they didn't want to pay the suggested donation. But as we know, whoever's gone to a museum or something like that, everyone pays a suggested donation. You don't want to look like a jerk, not do it.
But
So
that's always confusing when you see that rent room. So I just wanted to explain that a little further. So, okay, thanks, Bob. The board also adopts rules and regulations, and in short, you're going to do whatever is necessary to maintain the library. And the next one, Bob. This is very, very important. You as a trustee and your library board is completely autonomous, and you operate all aspects of the library. And in fact, you may be one of the few entities in the entire state that has so much power to be completely autonomous. So the mayor does not run your board. The council does not run your board. You run your board. And there is the Attorney General's opinion that Bob put up right there. The library statute excludes any interference by the municipal governing body with the exercise of the powers granted to the trustees. So I think that that's really important to remember, because I know you do have your mayor on the board, and sometimes it might be a little hard. The mayor obviously has to look out for his position in the town first. And sometimes he or she may want to do things a certain way, but you run the show, not the other way around. A little bit about the role of the director, because there is a distinction between the trustee, the director, and even the friends group. So you want to think of your library director as the CEO of the organization. And they manage all the operations of the library. Sometimes there's a civil service job description for this, but don't ask us any questions about civil service, because that's an entirely separate matter. And sometimes, these are not civil service positions, or at will positions, and you create your own job listing for it. But you as the board have the hiring authority to hire the director. You also have the hiring authority to hire the staff, but you may want to delegate this to the director to do, because I think the director probably would know best who would fill like a children's librarian position, or a reference librarian position. And the director will let you know, however, there's a need for a certain position in the library and that he or she wants to hire for that. And the director will also conduct the interviews and then come back to the board and recommend the hire, which you can then approve or disapprove, but usually you take the advice of the director. And the next one, Bob? Oh, okay. So the role of the director, just to continue a little bit, you should keep your distance from the staff. And realize that you hired the director for a purpose and respect that position. So trustees should not talk to the staff directly about library operations, or you should not go to the staff directly and tell them, gee, I really want you to fix up this area in the library or read that shelf or something like that. The other way around too, the staff is going to communicate with the director and the director is going to communicate with the trustee. So you want to make sure that there is that differentiation and you're going to let the director handle it going up the ladder and also going down the ladder too. That's the best practice. Also, what you can do is establish the job description for the director. So you're going to hire the director, establish a job description, establish what goals you want the director to complete in a year. And you want to make sure, this is very important, you want to make sure that you do at the end of the year a performance evaluation on the director, and to see how they did they meet the goals? If they didn't, why or why not? And you want to establish new goals. And then there's a lot of times when sometimes directors aren't working out, and I get some calls from trustees about what to do. And I ask, do you have like a paper trail with performance evaluations? And they say, no, we do not. We want to start doing that. It's always best if you have a new director that you're hiring, you start off right away with the performance evaluations, because once you don't do them for years and years, it becomes very hard then to put them in place. And we do have on our website some instruments that you could use when you want to do evaluations of your director. And the next one, Bob. It's best also if you have some type of personnel manual or an employee handbook, and I think that the director will mostly put this together. But in that handbook, it's important that you have these policies that are listed here, and you may have even more, but these are the main ones that you need to have written down in an employee handbook and given to each of the employees of the library. So they're very clear on what is expected to them, what their benefits are, what their different procedures are, and they know that if they do something wrong, or how the discipline procedure will be, that will all be mapped out. So you want to make sure you have a personnel manual. On the other hand, we do have a trustee manual, and that's on our website, and that will give you sort of the best practices of being a library trustee. So you could look it up there. Some other, let's see, are we on the next one, Bob? All right, so let's talk about the role of the mayor on the board. And I sort of mentioned this before by trying to emphasize that you are the autonomous body, because the mayor really appoints the trustees to the board, but the mayor only gets one vote. All right, he gets one vote, and he is not the CEO of the library, so he does not get just what he or she says does not go. He or she cannot dictate what the library is going to do. The entire board does that, because you do take, when you have that reorganization meeting in January, you do take an oath to faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the office of a library board member. So your commitment and obligation is to the library. And keep in mind that the mayor is not to run everything, and you don't have to go along with everything the mayor says. And next one, Bob. Talk a little bit about working with elected officials. I know, the mayor is on your board, but you're going to be meeting at different times with, say, your council or other elected officials within your town. And so it's very important that you're always advocating for your library. This is a process that never stops. And you are the main people who can advocate for your library on and on going forward from here. You need to have good relationships with the elected officials in your town, because what they think may eventually somehow impact your library. So you want to maintain whatever kind of working good relationships you can with your elected officials. If you can, you want to share your library's message, and the reason why it's important that people know that, who you serve and what you do. So you want to share the library's message as much as possible. And then every month, and I used to do this when I was a library director, although my trustees would come, I would make a brief presentation before council every month, just for a few minutes to share, the good things that were happening at the library and the success that we were having at the library. Because if you don't do this on a continuing basis, and that's what really builds the support. If you don't do this, all of a sudden, if you show up once a year and you want to ask for additional funding, they're going to say, who are you? Why are you here? But if you're there every month or every other month, you're always keeping the library's message right up in front there. And they're going to know that, you take this seriously, that you want the help, you want the funding, and they're going to be more willing to listen to you than to just say, who is this person that comes before me once a year and all they do is ask for money. So it's an ongoing communication with your elected officials. And I think, Bob, you're turning it over to you now.
Yep. So speaking about money, as municipal libraries, most of your funding is going to come from the 1/3 of a mil. Probably heard about that, especially trustees that have been there for a while. 1/3 of the mil is a dedicated tax. It's a separate line on the tax bill, so it's not subject to the town's budget cap. You basically take the equalized property valuation, multiply that by 0.000 and 6/3, and that's your minimum 1/3 of the mil. This is the minimum amount the town can give your library each year. The municipality may appropriate more money, may elect to give you more money, but additional funds are subject to the town's budget cap. So that comes out of their general fund, and they might not be able to increase that much each year. But for those libraries that get that, it certainly does help. The statute requires that this 1/3 of a mil be paid in no fewer than quarterly payments to the library treasurer. So every quarter, you should get a check from the municipality to the library treasurer that is your payment for that quarter. Like the statute said, they can't do it any fewer than that, but they could do it more than that. But mostly, they're all on a quarterly basis by this point.
They can't do it once a year. And I've had
correct. Yeah, that'll be fewer.
It's December, and they haven't given us any of our money yet.
Yep. Yeah, they definitely can't do that. It has to be 4 or more payments per year. Regulations allow the money to be kept in a reserve account in the custody of the municipality and dispersed upon the approval of library trustees. So some libraries and towns have an agreement, and we tend to counsel people that agreement should be in writing, should be an actual contract, that they hold the library's money and pay medical insurance, payroll, things like that, that the library can then use the town's payroll system as an efficient way of paying their people as well, kind of saving money. But that money is still under the control of the library, whether it's in the town's accounts or not, that's still there. It still is subject to the quarterly payments and everything like that. Any prior year unexpended funds remaining from 1/3 of the mil must be retained in a library controlled account dedicated for eligible purposes. We're going to get into eligible purposes in a minute, but if you are lucky or fortunate, don't spend all of your money each year, that money is carried forward into the next year and then can be used in that year for something else. It's not given back to the municipality whether you elect to have the money in their accounts or not. And we're going to be talking about how money can actually possibly go back to the municipality in a second. So eligible costs. Eligible costs are defined in the regulations, the administrative code, as reasonable and necessary costs incurred in connection with the direct operation of a free public library to provide library services. So anything library related is going to be an eligible cost, or an eligible cost, I should say. What is an ineligible cost? You can't pay rent to the municipality. You can't, the municipality can't charge you rent and then you pay rent. That's not allowed. You also can't pay debt service. So if the town bonds for an addition to your building or something like that, and they say, yeah, but the library is going to have to repay that, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. And capital expenses are something over and above. They're not operating. They're, for building things or repairing a building. Those are only if there's a written capital plan approved by the trustees. And I think you're going to talk about that later on, Michele, right? About
Yes.
like with strategic
Well,
planning and
the
things like that.
strategic plan, not the capital plan, though I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but basically, if you're going to be reserving money in a capital account, you should have a capital plan already formed, already made and written down, and that transfer from operating to a capital account must be done by a board resolution in support of that capital plan. Otherwise, the town could come back and say, "Hey, you guys look like you're just trying to stash money away for a rainy day," and it could trigger some other statutes we'll talk about in a little bit.
And I think, Bob, I'm sorry, there's a sample capital plan and a sample resolution for capital funds on the website.
Yep. So another way the library gets money is through state aid. This is generally a small amount that's paid to each library. The total amount currently is about $4.6 million. It's an amount paid based on the millage paid to the library and the population of the town or county. For you all here is town. So it's a per capita amount. Usually it's $1.25 per capita. So you take your population, multiply it by 1.25, and that would normally be your payment. Unfortunately, the state aid program is not fully funded, so you have to actually reduce that payment by a certain percent to get your actual payment. And if you really want to know what your payment is going to be, you can send me an email or have your director send me an email, and I can give you a ballpark about what it would be if everything goes according to plan. The library is responsible for an annual survey and an accuracy certification. We actually just wrapped up that survey process where the library fills out a survey online, usually the library director, gives us all the information, and we use that to make sure that they're adhering to all the minimum standards set out in regulations for state aid, and then can receive their payment because of that. The accuracy certification is just to certify that all the data is accurate to the best of the directors and the board's knowledge. And again, we talked about minimum standards. You can look up what those minimum standards are, but there are things that are like number of employees, number of books in your collection, the hours you're open, the number of hours of training that your employees and you as a board receive each year. We're gonna have a slide later on about that because it's very, very important. So I'll leave that for that. The municipality or county is also responsible for part of this state aid application, and they actually have a document called the state aid application that they have to fill out and send to me and to your director each year during this, in the winter, basically the early part of the year. That form they get from their egg newsletter, which is published in January. There is a statute that allows you to raise the third of the mill minimum to a different minimum. I'm not going to read all this here, but basically it requires you to go to the voters and have a referendum called to vote on that new higher rate. The rate expires after 10 years. It is exempt from the 15% annual budget cap, annual cap increase in your budget. So library budgets by statute can't go up more than 15% each year, but you can apply to the state librarian if that happens for some reason and get that waived. But this new rate, specifically in this statute, it exempts that increase from this 15% cap. In the first year the new rate is effect, the library is also exempt from the excess fund statute, which we're going to go to in the next slide. And there is specific wording of this public question that is set forth in the statute that you have to use if you do go to the voters and trigger this referendum. Excuse me. So the excess fund statute, this is how, if you have excess money, possibly it can be returned to the municipality. Requires the library to have an annual report to the municipality, requires the library to return any surplus that is in excess of 20% of the last year's audited operating expenditures. Return of funds process, if your director, this is something your director will do, is go through this packet on our website, fill out a document that is an Excel sheet that will automatically calculate at the bottom if your library has any money to return. If they do have any money to return, then you must complete the rest of that application packet, submit it to me and Michele, and then we go through it, check to make sure everything's okay with it, and then bring it before the state librarian to approve that transfer. The state library, again, that's the link there where the packet is. The application for the return of excess funding can only be completed by the library. This is very important. Sometimes we have the town kind of telling the library, you have to do this. You have to give us back money or return funds to us, or you have to do this. And again, you're an autonomous body. You have to follow the law, and the law says that the application has to be done by the library. Donations and funds previously restricted for capital are excluded from this calculation. So if you get a big windfall from a bequest or something like that, that is exempt from being returned to the municipality. And the part of the excess fund statute states that the Board of Trustees of Municipal Free Library, established after the effective date of that law, 2008, shall not adopt a resolution of intent before the 8th budget year following its establishment. This is for new libraries. If a new library is formed, it has to wait 8 years before it can even apply to return funds to the municipality. And another very important thing, doesn't really impact you at all, but impacts the municipality. And sometimes a lot of municipal government people don't know about this, but the funds that, if you have funds to return, the funds that you do return can only be used to reduce the taxpayer's burden, can only be used for taxpayer relief. They can't go to buy a new truck for DPW. They can't go to buy new chairs for for a meeting room or something like that. They must only be used for taxpayer relief. Yep.
When you're done, don't go to the next one for a second.
I am done.
Okay. So if you go to the website and you take a look at the return of funds packet, and you're going to open it up, and you're going to just see all these documents, and probably freak out. Your director's going to freak out because it really is an awful lot of work to go through. But before you do any of the work, please look at that Excel sheet that is the transfer calculation form. Have your treasurer fill it out. It's an auto. You plug in some numbers, it automatically will generate whether you owe something or not. And if you don't owe it, you don't have to fill out all that stuff. But it's also good because you're going to go at least once a year before the council, and you're going to give them a financial report of the library. You may give them your audit. And you could also include, because a lot of towns do know that about these excess funds, and they're looking everywhere to get them. You can show them that transfer calculation form and say, look, this is the only official form that tells you whether we have funds. We filled it out. It's the 0 down there. So therefore we don't owe anything. So you can kind of bring that as proof to show them, and then just remind them that only the state librarian may approve the return of funds. And once we get an approval from her, Bob actually contacts, what is it, DLGS, Bob?
Yes, the Division of Local Government Services.
Yes, and tells them, okay, it's okay to contact such and such a town and give them permission to then return the funds. So
to accept the funds,
accept the funds. So
Yep.
we do try to keep track on that. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yep. So you are all ready to go for your part.
Okay. So strategic planning. Why should you do a strategic planning? I love Yogi Berra. I love all his sayings, but because the future ain't what it used to be. Libraries cannot keep doing what they've always done and expect to survive, let alone flourish. And when you do a strategic plan, it's going to really force you to take a look at what you're doing right now and what are the future trends that is going to lead you to address new challenges in the field, and new ways to help your community and serve your community. So it's like a management tool that you're going to use to chart and shape your library's future. And as it's always good to have a 3-year plan, you will definitely need it if you want to return funds. If you have to fill out a return of funds packet and you don't have a strategic plan, the first thing we'll say is you have to do a strategic plan, which could delay everything for 3 or 4 months or so. So it's very important that you update it if you have it, or you get one done if you don't have it. And next one, Bob. Now, there are basic elements of every strategic plan. And I've seen all kinds of plans, and they're all different lengths. But if you're a small library, you don't have to do like a 50-page plan. You know, I've seen 10-page plans, and they're perfectly suitable for a small library. But the basic elements are all right here. Every strategic plan has a vision statement, where you're going to go, what do you aspire to be in the future. Your mission statement is, what do we do right now? What is it that we're doing? What is our mission right now? The information gathering and analysis is also kind of called the environment scan. And this is sort of the hard part, or the part that takes the most time. And this is where you have to do, whether through focus groups, or phone surveys or online surveys. You survey your staff. You want to survey people who are using your library, and most importantly, you need to get out in the community and survey the people who are not using your library. Find out who they are. Find out what they need from you that you're not giving them right now, and that's why they're not visiting the library. But that informs everything you do in the strategic plan, including all the goals you set for yourself, and then all the strategies you lay out in order to achieve your goal. You then have a budget in your 3-year plan where you anticipate costs. You have a timeline to tell you, we're going to, in year 1, do this, year 2, do that, year 3, do this. Don't do everything in 1 year. Sometimes a project might not start to year 2 or year 3. So you want to map it all out, a timeline and the budget there. And you want to then benchmark it whenever you hit, okay, we completed this. Now we're going to work on to the next part of this goal. And that's why you have the strategies. And then in the end, you want to evaluate how well you did with the plan. So these are the major components of the plan. You may undertake this yourself, to do this yourself. You would have a special committee, would include the director, it might include someone from your friends group, some of your trustees, some of your staff, and then some people that are out in the community. If you have some money, I would recommend that you hire someone to do it, especially to get you through that information gathering process of it, because that can often take a long time. The hard part is that a lot of the people that used to do this have retired, and there's not too many people anymore that you can find independently to help you out. So that's the only caveat about this. But okay, next slide, Bob. Okay, so that was about the strategic plan. If you need more information, it's on our website, or you can email me or call me directly, and we can talk more about strategic planning at that point. So now let's talk a little bit about the budget that you need to do. And I am not the budget person. I mean, just ask my husband about that. But there are certain best practices and certain things that you do have to do. And that is that the library board needs to work with the library director to create the budget. And that budget has to fit the specific needs of your particular library. You want to see if you can anticipate what all the income is for the year, and then everything that has to go out. What is it that you have to pay for the year? Take a look at last year's budget, because how did you do? Did you run out? Did you have anything left over? And you can use that information to inform the budget that you're doing for the current year. And then review what you want to do program wise and services, not just all the materials you want to buy. What are the programs and services you want to offer to the town in the upcoming year, and make sure that you budget for that. So you're defining your upcoming needs, and you're looking at developing trends, which your plan helps you to do, and you are setting a goal financially so that you can reach those goals. Next one, Bob. The library board and the library director then needs to review the budget draft and make any revisions that you find necessary. And then the board needs to approve and adopt the final version of the budget. The library budget, and we have mentioned this a little bit, is presented to the governing body. So once a year, I believe you have to go before your municipality and you have to show them how you spent the taxpayers' funding. And a lot of people do show the budget. A lot of people take that time to, give a presentation about the library. Some boards just give the town their audit, which can serve as that. But at any rate, you have to do that once a year. And then once the appropriation is set, the board, along with the director, implements the budget and off you go. Next. Now you have to keep up monitoring the budget. You just don't you don't approve it and then start spending the money. Every month, the director is going to give you a list of expenditures that they have for the month. And after you review this, the board treasurer and the board is going to approve the payment of bills. Now, there are a lot of libraries where the town keeps the money in their pot over there in a separate line and pays the bills for them. And that's certainly allowable, but it's still a best practice that you as the board are going to approve the payment of bills and then show that to the municipality that they can, then they can take the money from your line there, the library line, and pay the library bills with it. Make sure you just always have a knowledge of what those expenditures are going to be. You want to maintain a reserve fund for emergencies. And I guess that's that 20% over you're allowed to keep. And you want to evaluate the operating budget to make sure it's sufficient enough to maintain the level of service that you want your library to provide. So if not, if there are services that your town needs and you want to, you feel it's urgent that and you must provide these services, you may want to look around to see, how you can raise more funding to do that. Identify emerging issues or material needs that will have to be addressed in the next budget. So you're looking ahead for the next year then. Next one, Bob, please. So once a year, you evaluate the director. You have a lot of work to do as a trustee. So once a year, it's really good that you do your own self-evaluation. How did you do that year as a trustee? And you could just answer these questions on your own by yourself. Do you know the mission of the library? Are you active on the board? Do you serve on committees? Do you take the time commitment not only to show up maybe quarterly or monthly for a meeting, but do you go to your council and make a speech? Do you go to the school on back to school night and talk about the library? Are you involved in those sorts of activities? Sometimes boards don't agree on everything, but will you support the decision even if you disagree with it? If the whole board votes, will you stand by them and agree with them? And are you aware of any pending legislation that is pertinent to libraries? And that's where your group, the New Jersey Library Trustee Association, will let you know. Also, NJSL will be involved in that, and the state library will also put out any kind of information if there's legislation coming up that pertains to libraries. And also, do you participate in continuing education? Well, if you're here tonight, you are most certainly doing continuing education, and we thank you very much for that. And it's very important that you continue to take some of these courses once in a while, as long as they relate to your position on the board. And then, do you advocate for your library on the local, state, and federal level? As I said, are you very involved in showcasing your library and advocating your library to everyone? And next, Bob. There are, speaking of continuing ed and being here tonight, there is a question on the annual survey how many hours did you give for continuing ed? And the requirement is 7 hours total per board per year. So this might count for 1 hour, but if you have 7 board members from your library attending this 1 hour presentation, that's your total 7 hours for the year. So it's 7 hours per board, and we're listed there where you can find that information on the website. And then once a month, Bob and I have been doing for the last year these monthly library director check-ins on one day and trustee check-ins on another day, once a month via Zoom. And you can see the previous programs we've had that are archived on the New Jersey State Library YouTube channel. But what this is monthly. It's sort of, I want to say it's like a free-for-all. We get a lot of questions about library law coming into both of us every day or throughout the weeks. Some of those are very sort of intricate questions that would require, a very long time to answer via email. So what we'll do is we'll have the trustee check-in, you log in, and you can ask us in the Q&A anything that you want, or sometimes, Bob will unmute you so that you can speak directly if you want to. And we try to answer any question. And sometimes there's a theme for these check-ins, and sometimes they're just kind of like all over the place. But we mainly created it to give a venue for you to ask us anything that you want, and that we can answer any question or find the answers that you need in our check-ins. And again, you can find those at the YouTube channel.
Yeah, there's silver linings and everything. And the one silver lining for me professionally was during COVID was these check-ins. We probably wouldn't have done this had it not been for COVID. And it's been great. There's the amount of people that we've had total in these check-ins over the last 2 years has been an order of magnitude more than what we used to have just from our once a year directors training and trustees training. And so like Michele said, we're starting to have more theme check-ins. So the last check-in we had was about Jersey Connect, the state library's technology group for public libraries. There's going to be another one in May that we haven't actually announced yet, but we're going to be doing presentations from representatives of all the providers of statewide services. So people from Newark Public Library, people from Rutgers that provide services to libraries that most libraries don't really know about, and we're going to have them come and talk about their services. But on a month like in the middle of the summer when everybody's at the beach and we don't have any ideas, then we'll just come with a bring your questions, and that'll be our content. But that playlist that's linked there, and again, Mimi has this presentation, so she can put it up or send it to all you after this. That link goes to all the recordings that we have for all the check-ins since we've been doing them. So you can go back and watch them, and they all count for the 7 hours of training for your board. So I think it's a good thing.
Yep.
Toot my
And
own horn a little bit.
if I could just plug another couple of education tools for you, continuing education tools for you. The New Jersey State Library, in partnership with the New Jersey Library Trustee Association, every year we license the United for Libraries online archived webinars. So there's one is called the Trustee Academy, and there's something like 13 webinars on there for library trustees that deal with all the common problems or all the common issues that a library trustee needs to know. And I think there's a couple of specific to the New Jersey State Library, so you can register there. There's something called short takes that's also part of this package, and those are like less than 10-minute videos that you could watch either on your own or with your board. They're great to watch with the board. Like if you have every meeting, you take one of those short takes videos, you watch it for 10 minutes, and then you have a short discussion on it. That's where you get really the most out of it. But there are plenty of opportunities for you to get this 7 hours of continuing education. And you will get a link to the trustee website, and you will find the Trustee Academy and short takes on there. Just remember that in order to sign up for those, you have to sign up through United for Libraries. They have a special New Jersey page that's going to let you as a trustee on. So you just make sure you read down the list and you'll find the hyperlink that's going to take you right to that website. And I believe, Bob, we are at the end of the presentation.
We are.
There's a lot more that we could have gone in with you, but I think this is a good place to end. You are always welcome to email us with any questions or concerns. That's why we're there. And that goes for your directors too. So trustees and directors, we welcome you to just let us know what it is you need and how we can help you even more. And with that, we're going to go. I see we have a number of questions in Q&A. We have 11 questions, Bob. So let's take a look.
Well, first of all, does any of our hosts want to read the questions to us?
Okay.
I don't want to step on any toes about how they usually do things around here. Adele or Mimi or someone.
I can start if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I always like to have that kind of back and forth and stuff like
All
that.
right. Okay, an anonymous attendee says, if the mayor is part of the board, but there is not supposed to be a tie to a city or township council, how does that work? Is this rule only applicable for someone currently in the council, or does that extend to ex-members?
Want me to take it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it works because the mayor is supposed to be the only linkage between the board and the town. They are the town's representative on the board. So basically the mayor appoints board members, but they are also the council's representative, representing the people in the town on the board. They don't have to be appointed, they're ex officio, so they whoever is the current mayor is on the board. The rule is only applicable for someone. So is the rule only applicable for someone currently on the council, or does it extend to ex-members? No, if a person leaves the council, as long as they are not already they're not still employed in some other way by the town, like working for Department of Town Government or something like that, then they can be appointed onto the board. But they can't be a current member of council. They can't be a current employee and be appointed to the board.
Okay. The next question I have, it's also by anonymous attendee. Having the council send a liaison to the board, is that okay?
If you don't mind, Bob, I'll finish.
Yeah.
This one. This is sort of like part B to the question that was asked.
It is, yeah.
before. So if the mayor sits on the board and cannot make the meeting, he can send a liaison in his place. And that could pretty much be anyone. It could be a council member to come in his place. But just so you know, it's like the mayor doesn't come and then the council member comes sitting on the board. They can only be sent in place if the mayor can't make it. And they only still count as one vote. So yes, the mayor can send council, but timeout.
I split a hair.
Go ahead.
So I think what they're saying is a lot of councils will send a separate liaison. So you're talking about the mayor's representative, or the mayor's designee. That's if the mayor can attend, they can nominate someone and say, Adele, you're my representative on the board. Go to the board meeting. You become the mayor at the board. You have the vote.
Member.
What's that?
They can be a member of council and be their liaison.
They can be a member of council. They probably should be a member of council, or at least an employee, because the mayor wants their views to be represented on the board. They don't want just some random person off the street. So that person goes to the meeting. They become as if they were the mayor. They have one vote, just like every other board member. They can speak during things. They can go into closed session, things like that. Contrast that with a liaison, which I know a lot of boards have coming from the town council. That is a person, in addition to the mayor's designee, sent to the library board to report back to the council on what's going on at the library board. That person is not a board member. They cannot vote. They can only speak during the public comment period that the board sets aside for the public to comment in their agenda, they cannot go into closed session. So those are limitations. Again, the mayor's designee and the mayor is supposed to be the one reporting back, but some councils seem to think that they need a second person, second set of eyes or whatever, to be at the library's board meeting. But also another thing for the mayor's designee, and this goes also for the superintendent's designee as well, they're both ex officio offices or positions on the board. If the mayor sends a designee to the board, to the board meeting, and then the mayor also appears, suddenly that designee is no longer a board member, goes back to just being another member of the public, has no power or anything like that. And this is why we recommend that the designees for the mayor and the superintendent should not be elected as board officers. Again, there's no statute or regulation that I know of that prevents that. It's just really not a good idea because of that. There could be suddenly, if the mayor decides to show up, suddenly you don't have a treasurer or a president or a secretary. And that's not a good thing. And it can be avoided very easily. So, sorry.
That's all right. I'll do it to you next time.
Great. Excellent. That's what I love.
Okay, our next question. What suggestions do you have for instances where the mayor's goal or interests come into conflict with the needs of the library?
No, that's Bob is.
You want me to take it? Sorry, I was muted.
Well, that would be a very common problem because, as we said, sometimes the mayors come with their own agenda. Sometimes the mayors come with what they want to have done for the town and not what's best for the library. But you are the library trustees, and you have decided that you, through strategic planning, you have come up with goals that you want to realize, and you have to stick to that. You have certain things you want to get done, and it can't be waylaid because the mayor wants to take over and do it. Okay, so that's a matter of all of you kind of standing together and just as nicely as you can saying thank you, but we have our goals set and we're going to just follow along this line as we all voted on.
Yep. The mayor is one vote, just like every other person on the board. Every person on the board probably has their own agenda. Every human has their own agenda. But just because they're the mayor doesn't mean that their agenda is what is going to be done at the library. You don't take oaths to obey what the mayor says. You take oaths to be board members and provide library service to the people in your town. That's it.
Okay. The next question, it's by Joe Steele. He asked, may a library director apply for grants independent of the municipality, or does the municipality need to apply on behalf of the library?
Michele, you know much more about
that's
grants.
the library director may apply for grants independent of the municipality. There are a number of funding entities that are library specific that want to give grants to libraries, like the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And there's other agencies that are library specific that the director can write a grant for. There may be corporations in your town that give out funding for certain projects. You can apply for that. Maybe sometime, this didn't happen with me, but if there may be some kind of funding coming out of the state, maybe that can go to a municipality, and possibly the library could be included in that. And in that case, the municipality would apply and include the library in that. I can't really give you an example of that right now. Bob, can you think of an example? I was thinking the ARPA funds and the CARES funding, but that's federal,
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or it won't exist in the future.
It's rare though. Most of the grants that you're going to get you're going to be applying for yourselves. The director is going to be applying for that.
Yep. And great name, Joe Steele.
Our next question is from Heather Thompson. Regarding the possibility of returning funds that exceed that 20% threshold, if private funds raised/donated are held by a separate foundation, they would only be included in that calculation once they're released to the library, correct?
This is a question you should pose to your attorney. But shouldn't matter where you're getting the donation from, whether it's someone's will or a person just coming in and giving you a check or your foundation. It's all, they're all donations to the library. And according to the statute that I've read, it mentions specifically donations and it doesn't qualify them about what source they are, where they come from. Next.
All right. The next one. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
In regards to Oprah requests, can citizens request this from trustees? And if so, is it a requirement that trustees have official emails that are not tied to their personal email accounts?
I think that's a lawyer question. I'm sorry. I think that's that gets really into the weeds about Oprah. I've seen trustees that have library emails, library email addresses. I've seen most of the trustees that I email with do not. That doesn't necessarily mean that those emails on their personal account are subject to Oprah, because they'd be dealing with library matters. I definitely think you should discuss that with an attorney to get a real legal opinion about it, though.
Yep.
Okay. This is from Sheila, can your local government council reject the raises you set for your staff?
No.
Nope.
You set as the board of trustees, you set the compensation for your director and for the employees of the library. You run the library, you're autonomous. Council
Yep.
cannot reject the raises you set up.
Yep.
All right. Next question. Is there a maximum percentage of budget that can be held in reserve? Do they carry over to the next fiscal year?
So unless you want to trigger the return of funds statute, that's 20% of your previous year's audited operating expenditures can be held in reserve and not trigger that statute. They would, anything that you haven't spent on December 31st of a year carries over into the next year. But again, if it carries over and after your audit, it's determined through that form that you fill out or that your director fills out that there is more than that 20%, then you'll have to return that, unless, like I said, we detailed the statute, it's from a donation or it's part of a capital account. And as we always say, it must be not just put in an account that says capital on it and call it a day.
Yeah.
You have to put it in there, transfer it from operating to capital via board resolution, and it has to be in support of an existing capital plan for it to be considered a transfer that's not trying to hide the money, basically, from the municipality.
Yes, has to really be open and transparent. And I also want to say that this is kind of a rolling, there's no due date for this return of funds. It's like a rolling, kind of application. And what you have left over from one year carries over to the next, all gets rolled into one, to the next, to the next. So I've had some library boards and directors try to say, well, in 2019, we had this amount of extra funds, and in 2020, we had this amount, and they're looking at 2020, so I only need to give back the extra amount in 2020. No,
Nope.
It's everything that's rolling forward into that big, that big percentage that's above the 20% that you're allowed to keep.
Yeah, I mean, if you had, say you did have over the 20% in 2019, and you didn't spend any more in 2020, didn't spend any more in 2021, it's all going to be rolled forward anyway.
Yeah.
So if you do it this year, it's going to capture the stuff from the previous year if you haven't spent it. Now, if you have spent it, which a lot of people, we get emails from directors and trustees all the time when it comes around audit time, when they get their audits. How can we avoid having to return funds? How can we do that? And it's very simple. Spend your money. If you need to reserve it for a building project, do what we said about the capital plan and board resolution and things like that. Otherwise, buy books, hire people. You know, it's a good problem to have too much money, but it can be a thorn in your side if you let it. So.
Yeah, do the best that you can for your library. Don't think about that you have to do a favor for the town by returning some money to them that, you know, you can be seen as, I don't know.
Interest rates are low.
Yeah.
It's not going to make any additional money, any appreciable amount of money more in the accounts than, you know, just spend it. And, but don't spend it willy-nilly. Spend it on library stuff, providing good library service for your town. But yeah. Okay.
Oh, thanks. Our next question is from Annabelle Forte. Who manages the 7 hours? How are the 7 hours documented? Is it the library director who keeps a log and submits?
You keep track of the 7 hours. You write it down, what you attended. I attended a library law webinar on such a date. You give it to your director, who puts it in a drawer and just keeps it. It's not submitted anywhere. It's just you're on your honor system. You are signing the annual survey that everything that you put in there is, you know, correct. You're telling the truth, and it's going to ask you, did you get your 7 hours? And you know, you're signing that, but you keep it on your own. I don't know if there would ever be. Is there ever a reason why we would call for that?
No, there isn't. I was just going to ask. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Does Buckles require, or you give out like CE certificates for this to library trustees? Yes. No.
Yes.
We do. We do.
Okay, good. Yeah. So that is great that you guys do that. There is no statute or regulation that would allow us to do that. So we can't do something unless there is a statute or regulation that allows us to do that. We just have to basically, what Michele said, if you attend this thing, you email your director and said, yeah, I was at the Buckles trustee orientation for an hour and change, whatever, you know, hour and 15, hour and a half. And then they will log that in their Excel spreadsheet. Come next January, when it comes time to do the annual survey, they'll add all those numbers up and put it in the data element 10.6, I think. That is for trustee training. And it hopefully adds up to 7, because if it doesn't, that's actually one good thing to kind of segue a little bit. There are penalties for not adhering to minimum standards for state aid. So a lot of the penalties are a 50% reduction, and they're all cumulative. So you can have 3 50% reductions, and that would mean you would get no state aid. There's only one 100% reduction for not achieving a minimum standard, and that is the trustee training minimum standard. So it's important.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what's your best advice for a first-time trustee?
Wow. I've never been a trustee.
I've never been a trustee either. My best advice would be to be involved. Just be involved, show up, find out what's going on in the library world, find out what the challenges are, not only for your library, but on the national level. We have a lot of challenges these days where, you know, with teachers and librarians, you know, with book challenges, and find out what's going on and just bring your enthusiasm and be there. To me, be an involved trustee.
Yep. And I would say, rely on the expertise you have in the library. Most of you, I'm going to make an assumption, but most of you are probably not librarians, not professional librarians. If you are, that's great, awesome. But if you're not, you have a bunch of professional librarians, especially the director. Rely on their expertise in running the library and in communicating things to you and then, working out. Rely on your attorney. I know a lot of libraries are small, don't have the budget for an attorney. If you are so lucky to have one, rely on them, use them, because they can save you a lot of headaches and heartaches and things like that.
And use your own, not the municipalities, because
Yes,
they have
yeah.
an obligation to the municipality and not the library.
Yes, yeah, you need to continue to keep that separation. I know there's a lot of libraries that do it and have been able to do it, but it can be a potential minefield. So.
Okay, our next question is from Jorge Martinez Jr. What would you say is the most important duty of a trustee?
I think there's a number of
Following the law.
them.
We
expect
it's
everyone to follow the law.
following the law to the best of your ability and the best of your attorney's ability, and providing just making your decisions with the thought in mind that you're there to provide library service to your town, and that's it. And whatever you need to do that, to make sure there is equal and equitable access to information at your library, that's what you need to do.
And hire a good director.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for. Get a good director, because they're going to be the liaison for everything for you, and do so much work on your behalf and help you out. So that is one of your main responsibilities, and taking care of the library and all the financial aspects of it. But one of your main responsibilities is to hire a good library director.
Yep. Jorge's got a bunch of questions in here.
Yeah, I mean, his next question is regarding excess funds of any kind. Can you clarify the 8-year period for a new library? Are there exceptions to this?
So there isn't. If your library was created after 2008, when that original law was enacted, they must wait 8 years before they can return any funds to the municipality. So if you're a brand new library that was created 2 years ago, you have 6 years to wait until you can return funds to your municipality. There's no exceptions, but if you were done this, there's nothing in the statute that says that. It's just straight.
And last question, is this the last one?
Our last question, again from Jorge, is does this count towards our hours?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Michele kind of touched on it before about what constitutes training for a board. And it's basically anything that's going to help you do your job. So if you wouldn't, go to training if you attended a library training that was all about binding books, you're not going to bind books as a trustee. You're just not. I wouldn't count that as training. But if you're going to the League of Municipalities conference or something like that, I think that might help. That might work, because you need to know what municipalities do to have that good relationship with your municipality and to do your jobs correctly. And then anything in between, like we mentioned, all the stuff on our website, all the stuff on the Buckles website, the League of the New Jersey Library Trustees Association's website. There's a ton of information out there. There's no shortage. There's nothing where you have to kind of hunt to get that 7 hours. It's very, very easy.
And the Trustee Academy and Short Takes.
Yes.
Yep. From ALA's United for Libraries. They're really excellent.
Yep.
Now,
I don't
Bob,
see anything else.
and Michele, I just want to let you know that there were 3 advanced questions that were sent to us when they registered, and I'm looking at them, and I hope that you will have answers to these 3 too. The first one is, should trustees attend meetings for staff or friends?
Should trustees attend meetings for staff and friends?
Yes.
Or friends.
Or friends.
Mm-hmm.
Usually for the friends, the director is sort of the liaison between the friends group, and the trustee group. I've get all kinds of questions about this. Can a library trustee also be a friend? And you want to keep those things separate. So the best thing to do for the Friends group, is to have your director be the liaison. And what was the other one, Mimi?
Yes, well, that question is, should trustees attend meetings for staff or friends?
I don't really, I don't think
staff.
they should, because, this is a staff meeting between the director and the staff. And,
Yeah.
this is library business. Remember, we talked about, the trustees need to stay over here, let the director run the library. They should not come directly to the staff, nor should the staff go directly to the trustee. So, and plus, it could be intimidating to have you're basically, your employer there, your board there at a staff meeting, when maybe you want to bring up, different kinds of issues. So
Yeah.
there's a law against it, but it's just not really, it's not a good thing to do.
Michael Cerrone has always had this story where he was involved with a library that it was such a toxic relationship between the board and the director that there were board members going into the library to tell staff members to tell the director what to do. And various other things the director was telling the staff. The director filed a grievance against their own staff. It was a huge mess. As Michele said, just let the director do their job. You hire them, you pay them a lot of money to do this job. Just let them do it. And they'll do it well.
One thing is we have never talked about, but sometimes it's good for the board to do a board retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Do a retreat, get a facilitator. If you're a good board, great, you'll be even better. If you're having some issues, the facilitator, you can work all those out. So you can think about that.
Okay, the next question is it recommended for a library to retain legal counsel?
1000%.
Yeah.
If your budget can handle it, and you're not spending all of your money on a lawyer, and then you have nothing to buy books or hire employees. If you have the money to do all the stuff you need to do, you should, and you still have money, definitely hire an attorney. You can hire them on a case-by-case basis. You can retain them, and have them come at each board meeting. There's all sorts of different contracts you can work out with them to do things like that. So,
okay. The third question I have here is, what are the best practices for creating synergy between libraries and local schools?
Ooh,
Oh.
that's more a director job. That's going to talk to like the school librarian. However, as trustees, you have the superintendent of schools on your board. They are an ex officio member. So if you have a problem where you feel as a board that you want to have a closer relationship to the school system or whatever, talk to your fellow board member about it. If they can't do it and they have other stuff to do, have your director talk to the school librarian from the school and kind of make that relationship. It should be at that level, I think.
There's a lot of programming in the state between your local librarian and your local library and the local schools. So I think probably your directors are already in contact with the schools, maybe your children's youth librarians already in schools, and working together, the school and the public library, they've come up with some really creative ideas for the kids, especially over the summertime, with summer reading and all sorts of other programming.
And I see 2 questions in the chat.
Absolutely.
We're way over, if that's okay, Mimi. I mean, we don't want to.
No.
Okay.
If we can answer these 2. One is can you explain the library room rental again?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, I did it the first time, so I did probably.
Okay, I'll do it again.
Good job with it then.
Excuse me. So there is no statute of regulation which gives the libraries the ability to charge people or organizations to rent their multi-purpose room or whatever room, study rooms, things like that. There is a regulation that allows, is either a statute or regulation that allows libraries to charge for fines and fees. There's a regulation that allows them to charge for photocopying, and that can be kind of extended to printing fees because a photocopier is like a scanner and a printer combined. But there is nothing that says you can charge for renting rooms. And we know almost every library does it. Doesn't make it, totally within what the law says or anything like that. And as we said before, Michael Cerrone has said in his previous presentations like this, that it may be okay, and again, consult your attorney, to request a donation from the people using the room. I would say set it out in your policies and procedures so that it's a consistent rate, that you're not charging one group one rate and another group another rate, and then there's conflict with that. And you must allow them to use the room if they refuse to pay the donation. But again, most people probably will because they don't want to be the group that didn't donate to the library, which isn't a good look on anybody. So yeah, that's basically that.
I have seen these like very complicated charts that libraries have made up, listing different kinds of organizations and sizes and what they're going to charge for the room. So I mean,
us librarians love our charts, don't we?
so yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, just make it simple. If you make it simple and reasonable, people will pay it, and then you'll have money to hire a lawyer or something. And then there's one last one, I think, right, Mimi?
You know what? I'm looking at the chat and
I got it. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second here. So I'm going to share my screen because they want to know where they can go to find the training stuff.
Okay.
And I'm going to get there really quick and share my screen then. Go back here, do this, do this.
I also have a question that was sent to me directly.
Okay, so this is on our website. When you go to our main website, you can go under Services for Libraries, Library Support Services, Library Trustees. And this has all the presentations, trustee manual, information United for Libraries things. And then
go up a little bit more. There is a Trustee Academy.
Trustee Institute.
Up there, and there's short takes with the links.
Yep.
Yes, there's a Trustee Academy.
Yep, Trustee Institute. And then there's the YouTube link that we have on one of the final slides of our presentation that that Mimi's going to send out, that you can go there and look at everything there. So.
Right. There's a question from Tatiana Brislow.
Mm-hmm.
Says, I have strong interest in community outreach. I'd like to strengthen community ties between the local library and town residents. May I, as a board member, become an active liaison between the library and the town?
Yes. Yes, please.
I would do it not as like a lone wolf type thing. I would do it as the entire board recognizes the need to have a connection to the people in the town, and the president forms a subcommittee that can address that, and then they go off and do the things that need to be done to enhance those connections with the community. It'll be a lot better coming from the entire board than just one person. So.
Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome.
All the questions that I see, this is great timing. And I'm going to ask that our co-chair of the Trustee Development Committee come back on, Tom Madru, and have last words to share.
Thank you, Mimi. And let me just say, one of the downsides of having everybody on mute is that Bob and Michele can't get the rousing ovation that they deserve for a terrific program. So we'll represent everybody for you.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Trustee Development Committee likes to make everybody a happy camper. But thank you very much, Michele and Bob. That really was wonderful.
Thanks for having us. Really.
I will just take a minute of your time for a couple of more administrative duties. First of all, if you have not already received an evaluation from us, you will. And Darlene Swistock, our redoubtable Buckles liaison who keeps us all going, will be getting that to you if you don't have it already. You will also be receiving certificate. It was brought up a couple of questions about it. You absolutely get credit for this. And I think Westwood or somebody has 10 people on, so they've got 3 already for next year.
Wow.
The slides and will be presented to you as well. And we will be setting up a link for recording where you can share this, or review it yourself, or share it with other members of your board, because it's certainly worthwhile, even for maybe not the newer or new trustee. It's really a wonderful program for everyone. With the evaluations, I just always want to put in a plug here. It is real, the importance of the evaluations are twofold. We like to share with our presenters and let them know they're doing a wonderful job, which was, you really don't need evaluation for that. But it's also important, we do ask you what we can do better, what we can do next, what you'd like to see. And we take those to heart. We provide roundtables every couple of months where it's just trustees. They come and we talk about a particular subject and a particular topic. And that came out of evaluations because everybody seemed to want one. So it is really important for us to give you folks the best education, training, information that we can. A great way we get it is from our evaluation. So please take the 5 or 10 minutes to fill them out and send them on in. And to that end, one more thing I want to mention, we are developing for a new program for trustee mentoring. We are initiating a program that we've put together to set up a group of trustees who are willing to be mentors and groups of trustees who wish to have a mentee. This program will be is in the process of a final development and will be available. Probably we will start having information sessions later this month about it and bringing it to fruition in May. So please, especially for the newer folks, if you're feeling you'd like to talk to someone outside of your own library or within your, please talk to your library folks. But if you'd like to get an outside opinion about what's going on or to get some information, you certainly more than welcome to. And so that's a program I want to announce at this time. But and we will be having other programs the rest of this year. But again, Bob, Michele, thank you very much. And if there's no more comments or questions, I just want to thank everybody for coming and have a wonderful night. I hope you all avoid the storms.
Yep, it was good seeing Adele and Mimi and David again. Yeah, it was great. I had a great time. It's always good to, get more information out there. Come to our trustees check-ins that we have every month. We would love to have you there. And yeah.
We'll see you again.
Yeah. See you in May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you both very much.
Have a good
You are
evening,
welcome.
everyone.
Yep, you are welcome. Should I stop the recording? Or do you
Sure.
want to, Mimi?
Nope, do the honors.
Stopping